Hello and welcome. So this is my very first episode of my Nails to Mill series. This is a series started in the '07 servers. The goal of the series is to start as a fresh level 3 account and make 500 mil. Because there is no real way to consistently price check items as I get it, I'll be offering low estimates in the description of how much my bank will be worth at the end of each episode. So this series it will mostly revolve around player versus monster for money, where I kill monsters, sell the drop, and that's how I make money. There may be a bit of PKing later in the series, as well as very small use of certain skills and resource gathering to start out to get some cash. But the focus of the series is to mostly make the 500 mil from just killing monsters and then selling the drops. So starting as a level 3 already has its disadvantages at such an early level. There are no monsters you can kill effectively to get decent loot compared to your alternative. So what a level 3 can do just as good as others is resource gathering. First off, there is essence running such as law rune, nature running. Although law and nature running will eventually die out, there is always whiteberry picking in the wilderness. They're pretty easy to loot, they spawn pretty fast, they're used in the herb lore skills, so there is usually people buying these, so there's always a value for it. And the good thing about these are they have zero requirements. These are doable at level 3, and it's going to be the best cash per hour for a very long time. So don't worry if you spend several hours here because it's gonna be a while until you move up on better things to make cash. So first you need to build a foundation for money making. Since I'll be doing PVM, I need to get my stats up. To do that, I'll need some money to start off, which will be covered by law running as well as whiteberry picking. So I'll need only a small amount of money to pay off quest supplies and weapons to start training. Although a few observations I've made that I want to note is that early on magic is really good. For most of the low level spells, it does a lot of damage for its low requirements compared to what you can do with range or melee with the exact same stats. Also, it can be cast from afar, as well as most of the bosses you meet during quests are generally weak to magic. Also, at higher levels, just a tad higher, it unlocks teleports, which is really good for getting around the map a whole lot quicker. So here I'm on my alternate account to show how effective magic can be. This is monsters fought during the fight arena quest. So for my Nills to Mill series, I made the mistake of not training magic early on and spent a lot of time, extra time, unneeded time, training melee instead. So I'm just going to show how beneficial the magic skill can be at such an early level. So here you can see my stats on my alternate account. This is a different account. It's level 3 combat with mostly level 1 combat stats, and I started the fight with level 1 magic. So I only used airstrike the entire way through. By the end of the fight arena quest, I went through around 600 mining runes and got up to level 19 magic, all starting as a level 3. So the reason I'm doing this quest is because early on there are a select few quests that are hugely beneficial and rewarding at an early level. So this quest by itself got me from level 1 attack to level 29 attack. This, although it all took around half an hour to get the combat portion of the quest done, but it could have been a bit faster if after hitting level 13 magic, I could have banked for the fire strike spell, and the remaining portion of the quest would have been 4 times faster. Now I want to make it clear that the runes used during the quest would cost anywhere from 10 to 20 GP depending on when you see this, and the cost can easily be covered by several inventories of law running or whiteberry picking. So it's not really that expensive. But this part was done on my alternate account, not my Nills to Mills account, so you'll be seeing me complete this quest again later on the series on my Nills to Mills account. But just remember, a few of my observations was 1. Magic is very powerful at an early level. It also unlocks teleports for faster transportation around the world. 2. Range and melee will eventually outscale magic at higher levels as well as being more cost effective, but at early levels magic just does a whole lot better. So this series is mostly meant to be a guide on how to start out making cash, but I'll include a few casual clips while still putting an emphasis on tips on how to start out, generally using methods that will stay relevant for a very long time. So starting out, I think the most infamous spot that I know of where level 3s die is just south of Varrock, where the Dark Wizards reside. Unfortunately, I enter a loading zone as I run past, and on the way back, the world just so happens to DC. So, in O7, you should just be wary of where you are because you only have 2 minutes to get back to wherever you died, and a lot of locations are impossible to get back to in that 2 minute time frame. Luckily, this happened to me early on, so I didn't lose out on anything important. Anyway, the reason I was headed to Varrock was because I wanted to get my easy attack levels off of the Dummies in East Varrock. It only lets you train up to level 8, so I wanted to do this before starting on quests that gave combat XP. The next part isn't really necessary since wall running has already started, so you could do that over this. But if you want a free 10k for just a few minutes running through the Stronghold of Security and looting the chest at the end, it will give you somewhere around the total of 10k depending on how far you go. But probably save this for later when you have higher HP, because the only reason I did this early on was because I started when the 07 servers were first released, so 10k early on was a lot of cash. Also, I didn't go for the full 10k at this point because I was 10 HP, so if I kept on going, the monsters past this point have a decent chance to hit 10, so that's all my HP, so I would have lost 5k if I kept on going. So I'm just going to come back at a later time to loot the last 5k. And after that little detour, the first quest, and I'll add notes in the description of the important things to remember. The first quest is hugely beneficial at an early level. It's the Waterfall quest. Most of the quests I'll be doing give good XP rewards with little to no requirements, making it very beneficial if you do the quest starting out, like I'm doing here. So the only hard part about the Waterfall quest is where you loot the chest on the opposite end of the dungeon while running past a moss giant that could one-hit you because it's able to hit well above 10 HP. Unfortunately, on the way back I died and did not protect the amulet, nor the pebble. So if you ever do this quest, get multiple pebbles, because if you die, you have to go all the way back to Gnome Village to get another pebble to get into the tomb, but if you get multiple, you kind of save that extra time. So I'm going to include a quick guide here on how to do it with 10 HP, 1 defense, and very little food. So to start off, you want one of the skeletons or zombies to attack you because this is single-way combat. So the moss giant cannot attack you if another monster is attacking you, and the moss giant can hit well above 10, but the zombies and skeleton cannot. So this way, you're not going to get one shot by the moss giant as long as other monsters are attacking you. So do this going to the chest and away from the chest. And, well, it's better to use extra food here than spend like 5 minutes getting back because you got one hit by the giant. Getting the urn, I attack the closest NPC so that I can run safely to the southern tomb and make sure nothing is attacking me on the way back. And that's how you do it with 10 HP. Quite simple. But anyway, once you finish the rest of the quest, you're granted attack and strength XP, including some diamonds. This XP may not seem like a lot, but early on, this XP gets me from level 1 to 30 attack and strength. This saves a lot of time if you can do it early, and it's a really short quest, so I would highly recommend doing this quest. This next part here isn't really necessary, but I purchased an Ardy 2H. I was planning to only melee to see how it would go, but after trying melee out early on, melee is nowhere as good as compared to magic early on, but it gets better later on, but we're mostly focusing on the early part. The next decent quest is Vampire Slayer. Unfortunately, the only way to kill this boss is to out-hit its heal, because the boss will constantly heal itself by a small amount, so bring your best food, fastest weapon, and I use stews because it heals 10 HP each, purchased from the pub in Seer's village for only 20 GP, pretty easy to get. Oh, and a very easy way to get to Catherby or Ardy is by charter ship. But what most people don't know is that if you take the 30 GP boat from Port Sarim to Karamja first, you save 500 GP for taking the charter ship at Karamja compared to if you took the charter ship from Port Sarim, because you're charged based on how far you travel by charter. So by going to Karamja first for 30 GP, you save like 500 GP. And this goes all the way up to Seer's, where you can buy the stews from the Seer's pub for 20 GP each. Now this is a good alternative if you don't want to buy food from players, and stews are used later on when you do Recipe for Disaster. A few quests that are decent, not great, but it's still worth doing, is Witch's Potions. Got me from level 1 to 4 magic. Restless Ghost getting level 1 to 10 prayer. If you plan to train prayer, this is worth doing, but it's also required to get the Ava's accumulator later on, which attracts your arrows back to you while ranging. Really helpful if you plan to train range. If you don't worry too much about it. Witch's House is also a very easy quest. The monsters can't easily be safe spotted. It gives good HP XP, and the combat portion is pretty easy, which makes it worthwhile to do early on. Now this part is the boss in the Tree Gnome Village, easy safe spot, and the reason for doing the Tree Gnome Village quest is the 11.4k attack XP, which gets me to level 38. Which also unlocks the spirit trees that allow transportation between north of Varrock, southwest of Ardy, Tree Gnome Village, and Tree Gnome Stronghold. And after Tree Gnome Village, I went to Tree Gnome Stronghold to get 25 agility, which is a requirement to complete the Grand Tree, which also leads up to the Monkey Madness quest. And the 25 agility is also required for Ghost Ahoy, which gives me the Ectophile, which I'll need for Barrows. Well, it's one of the faster ways to get back to Barrows, which is why I'm going to do the Ghost Ahoy quest later on. But I'll just talk more about that when I actually start Barrows. So next quest that I mentioned earlier this episode was the Fight Arena quest, which no requirement to start the quest, you just need to kill some monsters. As I showed earlier in the episodes, it could be done at level 3 with around 600 Mind Runes just using Wind Strike the entire way. And the 600 Mind Rune could just be purchased from doing several inventories of law running, and then buying the Mind Runes off of people on the forums. So on this account, I tried safe spotting it by flinching it with melee. It took around 90 minutes to kill all the monsters, so by far magic is a whole lot faster and a lot more AFK. And this was done with Addy 2H that I purchased earlier this episode. But after that incredibly long combat portion of the quest, with the quest reward of 12.1k attack XP, that gets me from level 38 attack to 41 attack completely off of doing quests. No training at all, just doing quests for the quest reward. And this can be done quite a long way from just doing quests. You get all your stats up to a very decent level, around 40-ish, depending on which quests are available. And even then, you would only need to do like maybe 1 or 2 levels to get up to another quest that gives you more XP, which is kind of what I did for most of my early level. Next quest that gives good XP. Now this is fairly easy. It's the Grand Tree quest. The only hard part is fighting the Black Demon, getting it to a safe spot without having it one-hit you, which actually happened to me a couple times when I did it, but it could be safe spotted from afar once it's done right. Pretty easy to kill with magic since it's a demon, they're weak to magic, although the demon doesn't have very high HP, so I would say at least use a Fire Strike spell, or else it's going to take very long to kill the demon. But this picture here is somebody who was doing the quest the same time I was. Unfortunately, he died. I did return his item, and this is something that is not as common or not as possible to do in the live game with the introduction of graves, whereas on the 07 servers, since items automatically show up for everybody to take, people are more grateful when you return their items, because most people would not consider returning people's items since there's no way to actually prove who took what. After completing the boss monster, the quest got me from 41 attack to 45 attack, again completely off of doing quests, no training at all. So most of the early money making I'll be doing is from Barrows. This is because all the melee brothers can be safe spotted. Arims and Carols are bearable with protection prayer, which is why I plan to complete the Holy Grail quest, which gives me prayer and defense XP, which gets me up to 31 defense, although you don't have to do this if you don't plan to train defense. It's just that since I'm gonna get it up anyway, I might as well do it. And of course Barrows is doable with 1 defense, but I would recommend at least 43 prayer, because it makes it just a whole lot easier. If you plan to restrict your account to like maybe a 1 defense peer or Zerker peer, I'm sure you have your own plans, but there will still be some tips here and there that will be relevant. Although it's not, like, defense isn't really required for anything, except for a few things, but I'll note that later on. So around the second day, I realized that I'm technically able to partially complete a Barrows run. I can't kill Arims or Carols in an efficient manner because I would need prayer for them, because if I did it without prayer, Carols would just hit constant 20, and I had like level 1 range, so I couldn't kill rims, and my melee stats were pretty bad, so that wasn't an option. But all the melee brothers could be safe spotted. So I decided to run around the chest until it died. Being a low agility level, it did take a bit longer because this method relies on having run energy to be able to run around the coffin. So after killing the first melee brother, I had a decision to make. Either make my friend stay up for another 2 hours or try and loot the chest. So, because I had such low HP, bad food, and if I messed up while killing Dark, I could get one hit by him, so I just decided to go down to the tombs and loot the chest. So as you saw there, one auto attack from Varrock took over half my HP, and if I were to mess up while killing Dark, that would be a 5-minute walk all the way back here, assuming I had a buddy to give me my stuff back. Well, I guess it was worth a shot. I didn't really get anything from the chest. This was like only the second day. And Burrows, it's not really worth doing if you can't kill at least 5 of the brothers, or else you're just gonna get runes. So, Barrows is already doable at this level, but the only problem is my HP is too low that if I were to mess up at Dark, there's a good chance that I would die. And I would much prefer to do it with prayer pots to use against Arims and Carols, so I'll just have to come back when my stats are a bit better. So that's it for this episode of Nills to Mills. It'll be a short while until I actually start money making because I need to level up my stats. But all I really need is Fire Bolt, Family Crest done for the Chaos Gauntlet, which gives +3 to Chaos spells, 43 prayers so I can protect melee when killing Dark, as well as range and mage for Arims and Carols, and a decent range level. All of this is able to be done by just doing quests. So I'll be doing those quests over the next few episodes. So thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.